Shalom Chaverim. Today, Parashat Re'eh, the Torah portion of Re'eh, and we're going to do it together with philosopher Peter Singer. First, I'd like you to do something. I'd like you to imagine that you are walking through a forest by a big, beautiful pond. And suddenly you hear something, so you look towards the pond and something is moving there. When you look closer, you see that what's moving there is in fact a young child, a toddler, drowning. And so your first instinct is to look around you and see if there's any supervisor, a parent, somebody with this child, and you see that there's no one. It's just you watching it. And it happened that today you put on your best clothes because you're on your way to a job interview. Great shoes, great clothes, and this river or this pond is really muddy. And these clothes, they call for dry cleaning. So, would you ruin your beautiful clothes in order to jump in and save this child from drowning? Now, I'm sure that most of you hearing this story and my question, that your first instinct is like, of course. What a monster will not do it? What a monster will prioritize their luxurious clothes? Well, according to Peter Singer, we in fact prioritize our good clothes every day. And we do it by living our life idly while millions of children still in 2025 die around the world from preventable causes. So, a little bit about Peter Singer. So Peter Singer is a moral philosopher. He's still alive. He was born in 1946. He was born in Melbourne, in Australia. He is of Jewish descent. He is Jewish. His parents actually immigrated to Australia following the Anschluss. So they were Austrian, and the Anschluss in 1938 was the annexation of Austria by Nazi Germany. And following that, of course, a lot of Jews left, including Peter Singer's parents. His grandparents weren't as lucky. I believe it was his paternal parents were murdered in the Lodz ghetto. And his maternal grandfather was actually David Oppenheim, who was a psychologist that worked with Freud and Adler, and he was murdered in Theresienstadt. So Peter Singer comes from a good line of Jewish people, and he's known for being a moral philosopher, as you could probably guess, and his work revolves around applied ethics, and a lot of his philosophy is around animal liberations, actually animal rights, as well as human rights, and the importance of donating to charities. So if you're interested to know more, you can find online a lot of his talks and TED Talks and learn more about his work. Why am I bringing Peter Singer today? Is because of our Torah portion Re'eh. And our Torah portion begins with a very, very strong statement. Basically reaffirms our obligations as human beings to make choices. So, it says, Re'eh, Anochi noten lifnechem hayom bracha uklala. So, what is Re'eh? Re'eh is behold or see. But what's powerful about Re'eh is that it is in the direct basically a form to a single individual. So it's not behold as all of you behold, is you individually. It basically turns to each of us as a human being to behold, to see. Okay? So, Re'eh, I give before you a blessing and a curse. All right? את הברכה, אשר תשמעו על מצוות אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם היום. The blessing, if you do follow my commandments, that I am commanding you today, והקללה, אם לא תשמעו את מצוות אדוני אלוהיכם וסרתם מן הדרך, אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם היום, ללכת אחרי אלוהים אחרים, אשר לא ידעתם. So, and the curse, if you shall not listen to the commandments, if you deviate from the path that I command you to go, and if you go after false idols, after other gods that you would not know. So Sforno has a very, very interesting commentary for these verses that actually really, really connects to Peter Singer's thinking, and I want to share it with you. So what Sforno is saying is, Re'eh, behold, pay good attention, so that you will not be like other nations of the world who are always trying to find middle ground. What is to find middle ground? And this is really, really fascinating. And I want to read it here. A bit of a different translation, but it's really beautiful, okay? So, behold, look and perceive that your affairs as people are not of an intermediate nature, okay? So not middle ground. Don't be average, as is the case with other nations, because indeed in your case I set before you this day a blessing and a curse, which are two extremes. Since the blessing represents good fortune beyond what is sufficient or adequate, for it is exceedingly good, whereas the curse is one which brings diminishment, and even the state of sufficiency becomes unattainable. Both of these, blessing and curse, are before you, lifnechem, attainable according to your choice. So what is Sforno telling us is that walking the middle ground is choosing not to choose, is choosing to not make a choice. Now, let's go even deeper into what our tradition has to say about our obligation to choose. So Midrash Bereshit Rabbah, as well as the Zohar, are describing this beautiful conversation between the ministering angels and God just before humans were created. And the angels are basically saying, why create these people? They're going to be terrible. They're going to sin. They're going to be wicked. Why even create it? And God's argument is that they are created with both wickedness and righteousness. But what's more important is that they are created with the ability to choose. And to quote from the Zohar, it was just and right that they should be created in this way, because for their sake the Torah was created. So basically the whole purpose of us being here is to give us some text that helps us choose. And with making this choice, our tradition says, which is beautiful, we are in fact more elevated than angels. We are better than angels, because angels in their purity lack the ability to choose. But at the same time, our ability to choose can also make us lower than beasts. And we all seen the examples of what we are capable of doing when we choose to go in the other way. Now, just exactly like Sforno and like our tradition said, Peter Singer claims that not doing anything, that not choosing, is an immoral act. And so in 1972, he published an essay that is probably this is what got him known, is the most known for this essay. The essay is called Famine, Affluence, and Morality. And he wrote it really inspired by what at the time was a really, really big crisis of the starvation of the Bangladesh Liberation War refugees. And so in this essay, he really, really asserts this principle of that not doing anything or not choosing is an immoral act. And I'm going to quote from that essay. By the way, you can find the entire essay online, and I recommend. It's a really, really interesting and good read, and not too long. So I'm quoting from the essay. If it is in our power to prevent something very bad from happening without thereby sacrificing anything else morally significant, we ought morally to do it. So that is, and this principle repeats throughout this. And now, what does it mean by that? Even now, and if you look at some talks that Peter Singer gave, even just in the past 10 years, he developed it in what he would call effective altruism. And what he's saying is that, in fact, we have surplus income, right? We have excess income that we spend on things that we don't need. And what we need to do is really donate so much of our income to charities. So basically, we bring ourselves to a situation that we are almost equal to the person that we are donating to. So basically, we agree to live as simply as the ones who are actually in need by giving most of our income away. And that's his extreme kind of like stating that he has a little more moderate approach in which he says that we should donate as much until it comes to a point where we feel like that it is becoming immoral towards us. So take it as you will. As you can probably feel and figure, Singer received a lot of pushback against these ideas. For the most part, the criticism revolves around it's just unrealistic. Now, I would push back against Singer, but not because it's unrealistic. I'll just push from the other side. That basically, I think that charities in general are nothing but a vehicle to perpetuate capitalist structures, meaning that what charities do is that they subdue our consciousness to think that we are morally sound while changing nothing of the structure and of the inherent inequities that cause this in the first place. But wherever you are on this matter, I think that we have one takeaway. And the takeaway is that we ought to do something. And that something could be donating to charity, or it could be organizing, and it could be resisting. But our duty and purpose is to always choose, because according to our tradition, this is why we were created in the first place. Shabbat Shalom.